Happy Monday.
Welcome to the Carlie Show.
Is that supposed to be my voice?
No.
Or is that you after
That was
listen to-
me. Damn.
Well, I mean, it sounded like you had more of an accent than usual. You've been listening
No.
to Old Town Road?
It wasn't an accent. Well, it was something, but I just don't know what it was.
Okay.
Welcome to the Carlie Show. Sometimes you just need to do a different voice. That's all. What we talk about today.
We are talking about how teamwork makes the dream work.
Yes.
Kind
of. Sometimes.
It can.
It can. I think that I thought about this as a topic because of all the work that I'm doing with the different friends. It seems like lately a lot of my work outside of Capitalized Social has been, building things and creating with different friend groups, which has been exciting. But you hear so much. Don't do business with your friends. Don't do business with your friends. Why do you think that is?
Because there's the possibility that the friendship could break up, or that things that happen in the friendship, like habits or things like that, could break up the business, and that it's not smart business. I'm just saying what people think and what I've heard. I've also heard that, like, in relationships, like, don't work with people you're in relationships with, and
But why?
because it can break up friendships and can break up the business and things like that. Like, they say that it doesn't really typically end
But what's
well.
the why though?
Like,
what is it about
why would it lead to those things?
What is it about your friends? Yeah, working with your friends that you would think that this would not be a good idea?
Not speaking about my friends in particular, but thinking through why that could be or what that would lead to. So in friendships, like, you're not accountable for someone else, like in us being friends, like, we have a podcast together, so maybe that's not the best example, but if I've never done business with you, like, you might carry yourself very differently in business than you do in our friendship. Like, you could be a great ass friend, but then probably not great in business. Like, if you're late with things, if you don't think things are more as serious as I do, like, if we have different visions for what a business could be, like, those can all be things to break us apart. Like, if we have different ways of dealing with customers and different approaches with money.
That's what I wanted to pull out. Like, what are those things? And I think it's because you can be friends with people and you don't expect, necessarily certain things, or you shouldn't necessarily expect certain things. Of course, you want to be friends with people of good character, blah, blah, blah. But like you said, maybe they operate differently, or maybe it's not. Sometimes maybe you just don't align well to do certain things, or you do them so differently that it's throwing things off. Or maybe they are bad with money, but they have cool ideas. Or I think one of the top things that I hear about working with friends, or maybe that I've said before or done before, is an issue of not taking it as seriously because we're friends. And so, maybe I come to the table a little more lax. Maybe I'm like, oh, this is the last thing I'm thinking about because, we're homies, we're cool.
Or show up late.
Yeah, so not taking it seriously, as sometimes people who don't know you at all, when they come in, they're ready to go. This is a real job, or, real opportunity. And so I think maybe it's because we think our friends take the relationship for granted and think that it'll carry over into business, which it doesn't always do.
It made me also think about a power struggle. Like, if we're friends and we've always been on the same playing field, but I bring you into my business and you would essentially be under me in a hierarchy or something like that, they might not do well with that.
Yeah, sometimes they can't. Yeah, so it's really about knowing people's personalities and whatnot. But do you agree with that you should be careful of doing business with your friends?
I think you should be careful of doing business with anybody. And so,
Yeah.
I mean, that goes for my friends, for my family, for anybody. I think you should be very cautious of who you enter into any type of relationship with, especially business, because that's how you have to file bankruptcy and do things like that.
I like that you answered it like that, because you're right. Why should it be be careful with your friends? It's no, you need to look for particular qualities in whoever you're working with, and of your friends, work with the ones who have and possess those particular qualities that you need too.
Or complementary skill sets. If we do the exact same thing, we're going to do that's not helpful in business, but you're good at a lot of things that aren't my natural forte. And so that's awesome to work together. That's why we make, that's why we work well together on doing different things. And so it's looking at all of those. I think business, and the reason why there's that, especially in business, that cautionary tale of not working with friends is money. Let's be real, money can also change people.
And I think it's also, I'm glad you said that. I think it is the fact that if something with our friendship goes wrong, then you can't separate that from the business. So just even with, you said, with the relationship thing too, especially if something goes on between us, okay, now do I want to see you every day in the office? You know what I mean? So it might be that where you feel you know, you got to friend zone people or keep them at a certain space. So we can't be friends and work here because I don't want to ruin that relationship. But I also feel like if you're really friends, then that shouldn't necessarily be an issue either, you know?
Yeah, and also with my friends, we have such open communication. Like, I actually do a lot of work with my friends, and I saw this topic too, and I was excited because that's what we're working on doing is buying up the block and building it, but together. And we talk to each other very direct and very honestly. And I've had shout out to Charlie. Charlie for sure has told me you need to get your shit together. And I'm like, you know what? You right, fam. And thank you for holding me accountable and making me realize that maybe I was being more lax or maybe I wasn't showing up as my best self because we are friends. And she was like, nah, fam, like we don't do that.
Yeah. No, that's real. So how do you feel about working with your friends then?
I love working with my friends. I don't have like an exact business with them, but we are working in a lot of programs and building a lot of things together. And I love it. I love supporting people that I love and spending time with them and helping build their dreams simultaneously, like building mine and making an impact and working in the community. Like it's the best of all the world, like of every world.
What specific like projects and friends are you doing things with? Just like the type of stuff.
Okay. So we are developing an entrepreneurship and residence program and working on teaching classes and creating access to the type of things that would be like in an MBA or an incubator, but bringing it to the community by people from the community and with people who understand the community, who actually care. So doing that, doing workshops. I do holistic health and wellness workshops with some of my yogi friends and with Felicia. I am working on strategy for one of my friends' businesses. She owns a gym, and so I help her do strategic business development with some of her planning and things that she's doing and building partnerships within the community. And then there's so many ideas, but those are like the three, I guess, the big things that we're working on right now.
Are those things that you're volunteering to do though, or are you getting paid?
Let's see. I'm getting paid for the strategic development and the business thing right now. We are not getting paid yet for the entrepreneurship and residence funding, but ideally we would once we prove that it works and put together.
And I just asked about that, not trying to be nosy. I was just asking about the paid part because that's when things are like official, putting that in air quotes, as far as like business now, you know, like you can't just be like, oh, kind of show up, kind of not, when money is involved. So that's why I wonder, like, is this just you know, believing in certain projects and things people are doing and you're just like, oh, let me know if you need anything? Or are you really like dedicating like, this is my time towards this, you care about it as much as they do type thing, and like really looking to make money through those endeavors?
It's both, and we're also making money off workshops. Like we do, we sell tickets and make money off those. I think it's a mix of both. Ideally, we would all end up making money in the end. But when I've been brought on to other people's projects, like my friends pay me, and I love that, and I want to pay them too. Like when I bring people on, but like for ideation consulting and business consulting and some strategic biz dev stuff, like I get paid for those.
Okay. Project that I have going on right now, or work that I do with my friends, is for some of my clients. I pull in my friends who are photographers and do video work. Three of them. Trocon, Damo, and Preston. I've all brought them in for different clients to provide equipment, lighting, can be the camera operator, edit, creative direct, etc. And so those are good opportunities where I've been able to pull people in and be able to pay them for work that they're doing with me. But working with my friends as far as like our business together, Damo, Tro, and I are creating an art gallery online, Dojo 87.
I'm so hyped.
So we can put they can put their art on there. I'm learning how to deal art, so I'm trying to be the salesman.
She's a dealer.
So we're working on that together, and that's more of like, I guess what I'm thinking about with something like this, where we're stakeholders, like we're all putting in money on the top to make this thing operate, and we all have to respect each other's opinions and, you know, develop roles, etc. We did our LLC, we got our EIN and everything.
Congratulations!
Too. So yeah, we're like really trying to work on that.
That's fire.
What else? I think there's a couple other things.
I was like, you always have a million.
And then like in other places, I'm more like working like an advisor. Like I'm not getting paid yet, but I feel like it's just like you said, like some things, you know, you believe in what they're doing and their ideas and you want to kind of be there. So creating like an art workspace, I think that Trocon's trying to do. And so he'll reach out to me sometimes about, business questions or ways to help with that, which I'm happy to do. And a couple of their other individual projects as well. So I kind of get brought in to kind of help brainstorm certain things. The other day, I think I'm used to being called Top Dog. That's what they call me for TDE, because I'm the one who's like always trying to turn everything into like some kind of money making business. But then also Tomo the other day was like, "Dang, you're like Professor X," and I was like, "Yo, there's shout out Nate who calls me Professor."
Yo, he does.
And Professor Lex, he's like, "Yeah, you're like Professor Lex," and we're like all the X-Men, and you're just like bringing us all in together so we can like take over. And I'm like, "Yeah, that's the plan." But it's fun, and I like working with my friends mostly because I like that we're building our own things. And I think there's so much space to build your own stuff. And I talk about that all the time, but that's why it's cool. I mean, it's always cool working on your own stuff and knowing that you have the potential, if you just pull in the right resources and people, that together you can get way more done than if I would just had this sitting on my whiteboard for like 10 years trying to do everything myself.
And it's so inspiring, like looking at all my friends and all the people in my life, like not only the things that they're doing, but seeing the synergies, shout out to business school, but seeing all the synergies and how we can complement each other and work together to do it. I think that's the coolest thing, because I admire my friends so much and I learned so much and am so inspired. Like, it's kind of like a guilty pleasure, because I'm like, oh, my cup gets full just like by working with all y'all.
Yeah, it does. But I have to be careful about it too, because, sometimes it's like, all right, I'm spending so much time with certain things that I'm like, man, I really need to also focus on like my specific work as well. But I also had a friend who was visiting LA a few weeks ago, and I wasn't complaining, but I was expressing like, man, sometimes I feel like everybody's trying to pull me into something different, like different directions. And it's like, I want to help and I like believe in what they're doing, but it's like, I feel like I don't have the bandwidth. And, he was kind of like, yo, stop complaining. Like a lot of people see something in you that it seems like you're not seeing, which I'm like, first of all, I am, but like, I still doesn't mean I can do everything.
Yeah.
But he's like, a lot of people see that in you. So, keeping your perspective. And also recognizing that you never know, if you haven't popped yet, if you don't have it yet, you never know what that thing could be. So it could be like something with, creating an art workspace. It could be one of these total other things that makes me drop all the other stuff I was working on. So it's like, why not have your hand in a bunch of different pots and help how you can and where you can and just see what happens? Because if one of them goes off, then that also helps you with everything else. So I think you still have to be strategic and realistic about how you work with your friends, for sure. But
when you say realistic, what do you mean?
Well, realistic in that I'm used to doing whatever I want to do and controlling what I control. And now, I'm dealing with other personalities, and it's like you have to do work with them, and they're your friends, so you know how they communicate. So almost that gives you a leg up, I believe. I think you can have the perspective of seeing it in a positive way, that because I know my friends, I may know that, you have pride here, or I may know that, there's certain things you do and it's jokes, but you might not mean a certain way, or I may know that, you're not really on time sometimes. So, and I didn't mean that for real.
I wasn't even taking that personal until she shook her hand.
Wait, but I was like, she was late today. I don't want her to think I'm trying to be petty.
It was so
I'm not trying to be petty, but like, if you know something about somebody now, with them being your friends, okay, you know how to, you should have some way to maneuver that and like have a perspective around that and know what you're dealing with. Versus it having to feel like, oh, it's all passive aggressive in the workplace, where it's like, you don't really know everybody and stuff, but you should be able to have real conversations. But it's difficult dealing with people, and me having to wait for other people to do their thing before I could do mine, which is actually kind of fine, because like I said, if it was on me, we wouldn't have got this far. So realistic in that, it's not all roses just because you're working with your friends at all. And, sometimes people are going through their own stuff. And, it's just, I think that actually kind of makes it easier, I guess, than harder when you think about it.
Yeah. And what's funny is, but it also doesn't take away like responsibility. So it does make it, to me, it also makes it easier, because I understand, like you said, like certain people's nuances and mannerisms and things that are special, or like what they might take more serious or want to, do. And we talk about those things, but it all comes down to communication. But I was recently in a project with people, and I had a very serious conversation with somebody in the group. And I was just like, yo, like you're like all these things. And he was just like, man, it's, like, why are you taking it so serious? I'm like, it's business. Like anything that my name is on,
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask questions and I'm gonna push and we're gonna make it as great as it can be because my name is on it.
So is that a time that working as a team with somebody new didn't work out well?
I wouldn't say it didn't work out well, but it's just like lessons. Like those are things that have to be addressed. Like,
Well, did they have to? Are they still working with you?
no, I guess.
So it didn't work out well,
yeah,
right?
So it didn't work out. Yeah, so I guess that is a real life example.
But was that somebody you consider your friend?
No, as I say, that's more of an
It's kind of
acquaintance.
levels. So you gotta keep it real too, because
I don't call everybody my friend.
Yeah, I'm not talking about like people I kind of know. I'm talking about people like I see or talk to like every other day and have real relationships with. When I say friend, by the way, I'm trying to think about times that it didn't work out well to work with my friends, but quite frankly, I'm really just now starting to like actually, like I said, not try to do everything myself, honestly. The one thing I can think of is when I've tried to have contractors and there was people that I knew and like just not taking it as seriously, what I needed them to get done. But I also take responsibility when it comes to stuff like that about, well, how could I make it easier for you to assimilate into like what was going on or be more clear about what I expect, because sometimes it's like you pull people into the fire and like expect them to get everything and they don't. And also that was on me, I think, for needing to recognize really what skills I need. I don't just need like a friend who's like, yeah, pay me X amount and I'll do this and this. I really have learned from working with people what skills I really need to find in the people that I'm working with. So like you said, I mean, there's learning lessons to stuff like that for sure.
Yeah, I can't think of anything bad friend wise, but I also like having money on the table and things. We've been working on a lot of projects, but we haven't like, I guess, made a lot of money yet together. So I don't know, all lessons learned.
But also a time that I know that you know about where there's a couple of people who were working together and, maybe they started working together for a while and started a business. But what do you think happens where over time it's like, dang, we're not really working together anymore?
Like,
I'm specifically thinking about a couple of people that where it's like they ended up deciding like they were going to split ways with their business. But what types of things like can cause that?
So a lot of different things. I think up front, not discussing, especially like in a partnership or in a small team, not discussing roles, not having clear, concise roles and seeing what falls like processes and operations. Like if that's not down on paper, it's really hard on the go, on the fly once you start rolling. I would also say a difference in vision. And goals.
And that can change over time.
Exactly. And you have to allow people that space. But if y'all are going in two completely different ways, you're not going to be able to make any decisions for the business.
And that's why it's important, like you're saying, to have the foundations in order. Like if it's really business, it needs to have real foundation. So even if we get to that point where it's like, you know what, we're not really seeing this eye to eye, hopefully with the right conversations, at least legally you're able to say like, all right, you get this or this happens and you can go do your thing, I can do my thing. So it is important to have things set up like that. But also, there's lots of examples where I feel people have had a lot of handshake agreements. Like there's a lot of people, it sucks that I'm saying there's a lot of people and I can't think of any, so that makes it invalid. But I can't think of the artists, but there's some artists who are like, yo, we started all this with like handshakes and stuff and we trusted each other's word. Not necessarily that, but like they trusted each other's word and they didn't have like a foundation for it. But they, I don't know what it is. Like, when you can work with somebody who's not going to take it there. But I feel like you don't always know.
You don't, and you don't always know. And I think that's the problem is like, you don't know until you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like people always have, like you never know what's going to happen like in people's lives or when y'all do make it and y'all are popping and y'all do get that money. Like you don't know what's going to happen. So it seems weird.
Like when I, if I have friends doing stuff with me or for me, like sending them paperwork or like a agreement. But, and sometimes it's like, yo, I don't, do we really need to do all this? And sometimes I'm like, yeah, we need to do this. And a lot of times I'm doing that for them. So they don't think it's like going to be some shaky business. Like where I'm just like, oh, I don't need to pay you or, whatever, which nobody should think. But, sometimes I'm doing it so that they can come in with a certain expectation of, oh, okay, this is like real business that I'm doing or real work that we're doing. So I think it's about setting the stage, setting a foundation based on, I guess, whatever you're doing and who you are. But another example of people that don't work, I think of like boy bands and stuff like that. And I think it's just part of growth. Like, as you grow up, I mean, people, like you said, people just want to do things differently. So it doesn't always have to be disrespectful. But again, you're dealing with people and personalities, and I think it can be tough.
In life, like you never know what's going to happen. And I've learned a lot, like being a contractor, like from my mentor, like in communicating that. So maybe I was going to get this project done by Tuesday, but then I had a hell of a week and something happened and I didn't get it. But I was like nervous because I told her I would. And this is a lesson learned. Instead of communicating it with her, I was just late. And she was and she just told me like, hey, I would have been cool with that if you had just told me ahead of time. And so now I'll send you a text like, yo, or an email like, hey, I know I agreed to Tuesday. Sorry for the delay. I can get this to you by Thursday. Please let me know if you have any questions or if maybe a piece is more important. Like there's a way to handle it.
And that's a good way to approach it, period. We always I tend to do that too. I'm like trying to avoid like, I haven't done this, but I don't want to say anything or answer anything. And it's like, just get it over with. Some examples I know of teamwork that did work well, music artists that I know of. Oh, and also art artists too. I just thought of another idea. But there are people like DJ Mustard and YG. Like the more I started researching how people came up, like I always want to know people's origin stories. Like, how did you get big? Like, what was happening? And then all of a sudden, now you're on the charts, or like now you have a single or whatever. And DJ Mustard and YG, like they were both like in the basement, like working together, working. And then one of them, I forgot which one it was first. I want to say it might have been Mustard, but like got a hit. And now it's like, now you're on the track, and now we're both out here. So it works like that. Same with Tyler, the Creator, and Frank Ocean, Earl, all of them. Like for them to have been a collective, like you could see they were sleeping on each other's couch and hanging out, chilling. Same with Metro and a few of the other ones in Atlanta. Like when you have a good group, especially with creatives, which is the examples I could think of, working together and not making it about you makes it so that even if somebody kind of comes up, like you're all kind of coming up. Basquiat and Warhol, like him working with, he attached himself to Warhol, who was up there, and then he kind of got more spotlight off of that as well. So it can be looked at as strategic, but quite frankly, I'd prefer to look at it as my friends are talented as hell. Like, how can we work together and like put the pieces together so that we can do these things?
And that's what I think of. Like, I'm like, as you're saying that, I was like, man, there's like so many examples in my life, like Good Culture DFW. They started this group. They raise money for charity. They have a podcast. They have like an online like blog and website, and they employ people like friends and people in the community to help build up the community. And it's like so cool to see that. Shout out to Whiteman and Kenny and all them. And then also, I mentioned it before, but the space program, the group of Black males in Oklahoma, just supporting each other. Like one's a producer, one's a photographer, one's this. Like the homeboy made the video for it. Like, you know, everybody just working together to help each other make it and to make an impact and make a difference.
Yeah, whoever you look up to or whoever you enjoy in music and entertainment, business, etc. I think it's always so interesting. Like, look at their stories and see how they were partnering with people or how they were working with their friends, like trying to build something. And it's just so interesting. Like, even when Carlie and I were at an event the other day, you know, I was telling her, I was like, yo, these are my client's cousin. And then they hire these other people who are related to them. And these people are producers, but they're related to them. Like, and when I say cousins, I mean like in the Black people term, because like I actually just found out like they're not really cousins, but they all grew up in the same community. They are all popping. Like, they're all popping because they all work together. When they create a movie, they get these people to do the sound. Like, so it all works together. And I think that's really the goal. Like, I think it's so fun to do that and to work together. So there's so much benefit to that, just in that, you know, you're working with people who care about you. And this, of course, again, goes to discernment and knowing who your real friends are. So I'm just throwing that out there, that I'm assuming y'all got that part down.
I hope so.
But just knowing that you each have each other's back, being able to tap into the different resources, the different networks especially as well. I think there's just so much benefit to working with your friends, and also because you're going hard for yourself and not going hard for some other person or people you don't know, or like some other rich people. Like, go hard for y'all.
Go hard for y'all. Go hard for y'all's community. And just also, like, you would be supporting their business anyways if that's your friend. So why not it be something that y'all are all doing together? Hopefully y'all are.
You should. And I would say make a list of your friends and like start talking to them more about what they're doing and like what they need. I think we don't check in enough with like what we need with each other when we may be seeing like what everybody else is talking about online, but like not our own friends. So for me, I have a list of people. Some are friends, some are just like networking type people. But like I'll list, when's the last time I talked to this person, and like, what do we talk about? When I talk to people, it's always about what are you working on type stuff. And so next thing I know, people try to do programs or whatever it is. But like I'll put a date beside it, and then I kind of try to like check back in and see what's going on, try to keep people accountable, etc. But I want to know what they're doing because I might can bring them in on something. They can bring me in on something. So just keeping that, touching base.
I love that. And rising tides raise all ships. Like I say that often, but I don't think I can say it enough because it is so true. And by them, like you pulling them into a project, maybe it's someone from back home. Now they can pull someone else into a project, and we're really just helping each other build authentically. And that is the most inspiring thing for me. Like that's how you actually make a difference. And another benefit, like, of people working together is like, you know each other, you like know their heart, you can help like build them up on certain things. Like there's just so many like friendship and relationship things that you can also pour into your friends when you're working together and helping them. Like if you know that they struggle with something, then helping challenge them on it to grow in this area.
I agree with that too. Do we have any specific ways that you can work together with your friends? Like maybe for people who go to work every day somewhere, or it's like, well, I don't have all day to be, doing all these side projects or do things with my friends. Like what are some ways that you can work with your friends? And not just support, because we should always be supporting anyway, but like to literally like work with them.
To work with them. The first is to ask them to figure out what everybody's doing, or to sit down and talk about what you want to work on, like maybe a project that you're not. And so, okay, let's say you have a job, but there's an opportunity to do some type of entrepreneurship at your job. Like maybe you're really excited about health or art therapy or something, and maybe you can bring that program to your job, and your friend is an artist or they're a trainer, and there's something you can do in ways that you can add value where you currently are, like at your job, but also start to build things with your friends. Like I think that that's always a good start.
I like that, pulling in the resources from everybody else. Whether it's something that you own or whether it's just putting people in position, honestly. But I feel like we should always be doing that, like no matter what. The friend that I talked about who has a nonprofit, like she hit me like, hey, like I'm the one who brings in the programming. Like, what do you want to speak on? And I'm like, you tell me and I'll show up. But giving people the space to do things that also shows that you believe in them. I think that's good to not just like, oh, I see you, Carlie, doing big things, or like share it on your Instagram story, like her articles and stuff like that. But to actually put them somewhere or like recommend them, or you working with them, having them do something for/with you, is a real way to show people that you believe in what they're doing as well. So if you do, you should be looking for those opportunities. And
I think that means the most. Like I love the likes and the comments and the shares and the pats on the back, but like putting people in the position to get paid, or giving me a chance to show up in a room maybe I wouldn't have had access to. I'm like, wow, you really believe in me, and you really trust in what I'm doing. Like that's so special. And I love how you always do that, like with your friends. Every time I talk to Lex, it's like, oh yeah, I'm pulling somebody in because they had to do this project, and I'm like, yes.
Got to. I can't do it, so I'm trying to pull y'all in. And it's so funny because now all my friends like that I know, like they're all working together because I mentioned Preston doing video work before. Daria, my friend who's a stylist, like I had her working on projects with me. He was working on projects with me. Now they did, like I found out like she styled like a music video he did. I'm like, oh, okay. Like I ain't get no management cut, but it's cool. But
no finder's fee.
Right, no finder's fee. PWorld10 on Instagram. But it's cool. But, it's cool to see that relationships are also building between your different groups of friends.
I love that. And so making connections, like maybe between your friends, like if you know that one of your friends is working on something and they need a coder and you know a coder, you don't have to necessarily always be in the mix. And maybe you don't have time for that because Lord knows.
Right.
But even connecting them
don't have time
and giving them the opportunity to either build a relationship or maybe refer somebody else. And I also think about that. It's good to know what your friends are working on and what they need. So when I'm networking, I'm like, you know what? I can connect you to somebody. Yeah. I don't know anything, but they might.
Oh, yeah. I could connect you to whoever, like, depending on what you're trying to do.
Lex the plug.
If you're working with your friends, I like that you put this in here. What are the ways to build a strong foundation and prevent issues later down the road.
We alluded to this a little bit earlier in establishing like a foundation, and it doesn't, maybe it is a handshake, like maybe that's how y'all roll, but there has to be some kind of conversation about how things will be to make sure, one, that y'all are on the same page, and then two, to also establish some type of ground rules. And I hate the word rules because y'all know I don't like rules or being put in boxes. But it's like, okay, well, I'm going to work on biz dev and you do finances. So that when the financial report don't get done, you're not looking at me like, Carlie. I'm like, hey, bro, we talked about this. And that's not my forte. And also just so you know where people stand. Also looking at goals and vision like short term and long term. Because maybe I'm more skilled at looking at big picture and looking at further out, but maybe you're really good with in the short term, like getting events popping and getting the word out for different things. So not only we work together better, but we're also able to align. Because if you're not aligned in what you're doing, it's not going to work out, friends or not.
Yeah, and if you're operating on something but have a different mission or vision in your mind, then you're not really on the same page with like what you're doing. And so it may not be an issue now, but then down the road, like as y'all have grown, it may be an issue because you're like, okay, are we going to do this? Or like, why are we still doing this other thing or whatever it is? And so you're right. Having those goals, but also being open to saying, you know, hey, we can have conversations. We're always revisiting and going back to say, well, maybe this or what about this? But also being open and having those discussions, because if somebody's like, nah, I don't like that. I don't know. For me, I'm never like that stuck on things unless I really think like, yo, this is a bad marketing idea or a decision that you're trying to make. But for the most part, you also have to be able to put yourself aside to say, you know, every battle isn't worth fighting. Like there's some little things like, yeah, I want the logo to be red, not black. Like, cool, have it. Like, you know what I mean? Like everything doesn't have to be a big issue. So I think being able to establish a space and like a culture to where people can feel like they are heard, giving people the space to be listened to and why they think that. And then the group saying yes, no, you know, not jumping on each other, but listening and being like, all right, cool. Like we're going to go with this or we're not. But also being able to not take it personally if they don't go with what you want to do.
I love that. And that's building a culture, because essentially you are building a business, and they always talk about business culture. And it's so important to have that brave space. And I say brave instead of safe, because brave, so you can feel like you can speak your mind. Like this isn't just a one-way street. It's always, we're all coming to the table working together, and I need to hear your voice. Like even if you don't feel strongly on it, like I would still like your opinion. Yeah,
I've been saying lately as we've been working on the art gallery, like, I know I'm working with a lot of divas. Like artists are, you know, kind of divas and they want things their own way or whatever. And so I constantly have to be like, all right, let me step out of this, because I'm looking at something from like, well, I don't think that's a good marketing way, you know, to do this if you're, you know, you don't want to put your name on something or, you know, like cool stuff artists want to do, right? But I'm like, you know what? But also I can't take away from your craft, because that's what makes this special. And that's what makes your art special. That's what makes you special as an artist in your story. And so I still have to like step out to be like, well, how can this work? So I'm consistently like coming in and not trying to play somebody or not trying to down them, but okay, that's how you want to do it. I think this, but how can this work? What can we do? How can we turn this into something that's cool and like different, instead of, you know, saying like, nah, like we're just not going to do that, or I need you to do it my way.
I love that, being open to the possibility and exploring the possibilities of what can happen. Because if we do things as they've always been done, we'll always get what's already been here. But as we're creating these businesses, especially as creatives, as we're going into this next wave and we're buying the block and building different things, like be okay with it not looking how you thought it had to look or how it's always looked, like exploring those possibilities and being open. Like I love that.
Open and respectful. If everybody has an agreement to be respectful of each other, then we should be able to communicate, right? And there's always going to be times where maybe, you know, there's a couple of days it's like, oh, let's chill for a minute, and, you know, but you come back and we're back on it. So I think it's almost the same as with relationships where, like you said, being upfront and intentional at the beginning so that we're on the same page, like this is what we're doing, this is what we expect. And if everybody agrees to that, then, you know, whether that's something on paper or something that you establish, like with a hug or handshake or whatever, then you should still be holding yourselves accountable to that, like to what we have said and agreed to.
And I love that. I think all of those things can help, especially everything up front, but continuing to, you know, it's like a plant, like continuing to water it and prune it throughout the entire process and letting it grow how it grows and being flexible and adaptable. It's applying the same business principles to a business.
So if any of you guys are working with your friends or have started something with your friends or did something really cool and it grew, I'd love to hear about that. Like put an ad up there or shout it out so we can share it as well. But for those of you who may have ideas and things you want to do, or maybe you see some of your friends who are working on stuff and haven't really considered that you could be a part of that or that you could work with them, or that you could combine forces to work on something, I would say to explore that and to think about that and really consider, like, teamwork really does make things move more quickly, more efficiently, less work on each person. And it allows you the opportunity to really focus on your piece, what you're great at, right? Because sometimes, we have all these ideas and I'm not great at all of it. Like, I can sit in my balcony and paint some stuff and sell it, but like, I don't really want to do that because that's not me. I know my lane. And so I'm trying to stay in my lane, but create a good foundation with the group of people who can then fill up those other lanes. So like, we're all winning the race. Whether I win it, Damo wins it, Tro wins it, Preston wins it, Carlie wins it, they're going to shoot me some. Like, we gonna be at the after party together. So I look forward to those things. And again, it's not even about that end goal either. It's really just fun to work together. And I think there's a different vibe when we're like together, we're like working on our stuff that you can feel versus when you're like at your computer doing your other stuff or, work or whatever. So I encourage you guys to see where you can work with your friends. I encourage you to talk to people that you see working with their friends and understanding how that's worked for them as well.
Guys, Lex was like, yo, I got this business idea and I came ready to help her develop a business thing. And here we are. Right. 30 something episodes later in this thing.
Right. We still here. This week, we have a question. Do you want to read it now this time?
I will.
Okay. What's our question of the week?
What can I learn from my sparring partners?
Are you asking me first?
Whichever.
First of all, what I consider when I answer this, a sparring partner is a person who when I talk to is just like we feel like we kind of butt heads or like they challenge me and like they poke something in my ego and I'm like, like I never win with you. But what I can learn from those people is typically what they're trying to show me that something is not about me or that I need to listen more, that I need to be more open to ways of doing things. And also from a couple of my sparring partners, I learned that I don't need to overcomplicate things. I don't need to keep asking. Well, this. Like there's a quick, like, this is what needs to be done to start. And you can do that. Or what's the step to do that. It doesn't always have to be what's the whole plan and the whole big vision, which I tend to do and end up taking so much time. But to simplify things is what I learned and to check my ego and listen.
Oh, I love it. Listen is definitely one of my, when I hear sparring partner, it is those people that challenge me, but also the people that I keep in my life, like my friends who call me on my stuff and challenge me to be the best version of myself. And the first thing I thought was listen. The second one is to look at them and look at the things that I admire about them and learn from them. Like a lot of my friends play chess, and they are always 10 steps ahead. And so sitting back and just seeing how they move and how they have grown in like their dedication or their taking action or whatever that thing is and like learning from them. And so that I'm more prepared like in my journey.
That's a good answer.
So what can you learn from your sparring partners this week? Screenshot at Carlie's Couch. Don't forget to sign up for our newsletter. We'll be sending some funny stuff sometimes, all the time.
Well, we got to send out some extra stuff because we're working on some other initiatives as well. And we want to start like moving around, doing some maybe we'll start with like an afternoon or a workshop somewhere. We might just start popping up with some T-shirts and some merch and like some other stuff as well. So we're working on some other things that we can get out there and flood these streets. But we look forward to working with you guys in different ways as well. So there's been a few people actually who have messaged me about the podcast, and then like I'll end up talking with them about ideas and things like that. So we're not friends, but I encourage you to hit me like if you ever have like ideas, questions, stuff like that. But really think about the people you know and the people who are right around you and how you can better work together. That's my challenge to y'all.
And if you have any experience in how to better build a foundation or work with friends, I would love to hear that too. And happy whatever day that you're listening to us. This is Monday, but whatever day.
And enjoy your week and share the podcast. Bye.
Bye, y'all.